The story of the jinn's companion. It was my fate that I had been destined to live with the jinn for years. It was my destiny to be a companion of the jinn. My story began when I was 17 years old, when I lived in a popular neighborhood in ancient Egypt. From my childhood, everyone witnessed me with obedience and serenity. I did not break a single word to them throughout my life, because they raised me well, and were kind-hearted with me and with everyone. All my attention at that time was focused on my love for the Quran, the book of God, and I was certain that I would work with every letter it came in. My life was extremely calm and peaceful, but it took a different course, completely opposite to what I expected. My life worsened. The beginning of the tragedy in my life, in Egypt a long time ago, but not so long ago, was in the popular neighborhoods in which I used to live. An Egyptian girl should not exceed the age of 20 without marrying, and as one of thousands of girls at the time, I had to accept these beliefs and customs and settle for my first share. But he who proposed marriage to me was the last person I expected to be for him. He is my cousin. We did not know anything about him or his mother, who was supposed to be my aunt, because the relations between us and them were severed from the ground up. The engagement period between us lasted nearly 2.5 years, during which I saw nothing but cordiality, love and respect from him, but the engagement period between us lasted nearly 2.5 years, during which I saw nothing but affection, love and respect from him, and throughout this period of engagement he wished me every satisfaction. He used to treat me in a way that the relative envied me before the stranger, and the time of marriage came. I confessed that I loved him with all my heart, and all my fears towards him, thanks to his unparalleled treatment. We spent a honey week. Yes, as you heard, only a week. I know that in all parts of the world, there is a honeymoon. But since we are in a popular neighborhood, a week of honey was enough for us. 7 days contained the happiness of the universe with what it contained. But the nature of things around us is always reflected. During these 7 days, my husband's condition changed completely, and his treatment of me changed, and the differences became similar to the differences between the 7 heavens and the 7 earths. On the 8th day, my husband visited his mother, my aunt, and as soon as he returned, he began to look at me, with looks full of contempt. What is worse than that is that his visits to his mother were numerous and repeated, and he became far away from me. He did not treat me as a husband, but rather as a person who was forced to live with someone he could not stand, and could not look at. He was always telling me about my ugliness despite my being characterized by signs of beauty, and it is not a testimony from me praising myself, but rather a testimony from everyone. By himself, I knew something wrong was going on, but I hadn't figured it out yet. He always deliberately slept away from me, sometimes in the hall and sometimes in the guest room, and our life together began in the first stages of stagnation and coldness. I taught myself to get used to all his conditions, forced her to coexist with him, and adapt to all his manners, even if they were sharp and pungent, and no woman would accept them in any way. By itself, it has become no longer a matter for me. I did not see in the matter of my marriage as a whole only the satisfaction of my Lord in it. I accustomed myself to getting used to all his conditions, forcing her to coexist with him, and adapt to all his manners, even if they were harsh and no woman would accept them for themselves. The matter has become no difference to me. I did not see in the whole matter of my marriage anything but the pleasure of my Lord in it. And the days passed slowly, boring and deadly at the same time. 40 days passed since our marriage, and strange things began to appear and happen to me. One day, I started the housework of cleaning, washing clothes, cooking food, etc. After I'd prepared breakfast for him, and he left the house for his work, and after I finished everything I prayed the noon prayer. I leaned on the bed in my bedroom, turned my eyes to the right and left until I fell asleep, and I wish I had not fallen asleep on this day. I woke up to strange sounds around me as if I was in a market full of people. There are those who shout loudly and do not like the price, and there are those who call people to buy from him his goods. I sat amazed at what I heard in my sleep, and considered it a disturbing nightmare. But I was more shocked than my astonishment when I saw the cupboard in front of me and it opened wide, and the market was inside it. At first I could hear voices, but now I can hear and see. I told myself that I would certainly be prepared for what I hear and see. I got up from the bed and walked until I reached the cupboard to make sure of what I see and hear. But I actually found it a street crowded with people, and there was hot air coming out of the cupboard filled with the smell of the sun that does not enter my room unless I open the window in the morning early. I smelled the smells, which only indicate my presence in an actual market, and I realized at that time that I was not preparing, nor dreaming, and that I was in real reality. I do not know where he came from in front of me, and I complied in this way and this way. I realized at that time that I was not preparing, nor dreaming, and that in real life I do not know where he came from in front of me, and I complied in this way and this way. I found myself approaching the wheel to see what was inside it, and my focus increased on all the people in the market. Only a woman paid my full attention, and what attracted me towards her was that I found her looking at me rather than the rest. I found myself looking at her carefully as well, and I found myself withdrawing from my tongue, and asking her, "Are you looking to me? And you see me in front of you?" I found her approaching with her steps towards me, and I wish I had not asked her, as she was getting closer to me more and more, and the more she approached me, the more her features changed for the worse, with me in the room whenever her face blackened and charred. Her frightening features, which were getting worse as she approached, made me take a step back from the wheel for fear of her approaching me, but suddenly I found her in my face, and retreated at once with my back, but I could not escape from her completely because I fell on the bed behind me, and with my fall on the bed my whole body became straight on it, and the bones of my body, and I lost control of it completely. The woman became standing in front of me in her hideous form, and her voice, which was like that of rabid dogs, that set off after a thief. I found it jumped suddenly with great speed, and stayed on my chest with all its deadly weight and its stench. I found my tongue heavier than the completion of the verse, and I felt a heat emanating in the entire room, all of which were moments and I saw with my own eyes the cause of the heat that was emitted in my bedroom. The strange lady has come over my chest, and my vision of the flames around me has only been obscured by the ugly face of the lady, which is almost in my face, and has stuck to it.